Good afternoon. It's Monday, the 19th of August, 2024, just after 1 o'clock. Welcome to UK Column News. I'm your host, Mike Robinson. Joining me by video link today, we have Alex Thompson and Ben Rubin. Welcome to the programme, both. Now, we're going to get kicked off with barbed wire because, of course, lots of people being sent to prison. And the government has announced the relaunch of Operation Early Dawn. So they said in their press release, in recent weeks, prisons in the north of England have seen hundreds of people enter the prison estate after the government took decisive action to tackle violent thuggery on our streets. This has exacerbated long-standing capacity issues in our prisons, which have been operating at critical levels for the last several years, often with under 1% capacity. To manage these pressures, HM Prison and Probation Service has reactivated an existing contingency mechanism, Operation Early Dawn, providing extra oversight for prisoner transfers between police, courts and custody. This means that offenders will be summoned to a magistrate's court only when it is confirmed that a cell in the prison estate is ready for them. Should they be remanded in custody, they will be held in a police station until they are summoned to court. The activation of Operation Early Dawn helps to manage the prison capacity pressure felt in the short term in a small number of regions. This action has been taken to ensure that we always have enough prison spaces to lock up those who choose to break the law. So that's what the UK government had to say. This is what Lord Timpson had to say. He's the Prisons and Probation Minister. We inherited a justice system in crisis and exposed to shocks. As a result, we've been forced into making difficult but necessary decisions to keep it operating. So what is it that they're doing? Well, Operation Early Dawn is part of a number of changes to make room or make space in the prison estate. According to them, it comes into force in early September. It gives the probation service the time they need to safely release offenders. So part and parcel of this is all about, as they had already announced, getting current offenders out of prison so they can make space for all those nasty right-wingers. And an operational assessment being made each morning and throughout the day in order to make sure who they can move out of police cells into prison cells and vice versa. They say that when it previously operated, Operation Early Dawn has helped to minimise disruption to bail hearings and manage the movement of prisoners across the justice estate. And they're saying that it's going to be mainly in these regions, North, East and Yorkshire, Cumbria and Lancashire, Manchester, Merseyside and Cheshire, East and West Midlands. So first of all, Alex, maybe I could welcome you to the programme and just get your thoughts on this. They're relaunching this, they say, as I mentioned, in order to deal with the whole business of getting people into prison where necessary. But of course, they have to make space first. What are your thoughts on it?
Fundamentally unlawful. Mention throughout is made here of the justice system, the justice estate, not the law of the land. And it's signally important that Lord Timpson, quite right that you put the Lord in inverted commas, given the state of the upper chamber these days, that he's talked about magistrates' courts, because these are the unlawful courts with no juries nor indeed professional judges. So you don't get either the benefit of judgment by peers or people learned in the law. These are the presumptions that he's operating under, that people go to magistrates' court. There's also a presumption there, Mike, that people will be found guilty and sent down by the beak, as it used to be called, in the magistrates' courts. Even within the law system of England and Wales, it's notorious that the magistrates will convict with no questions asked. This is redolent of some of the district attorneys in the States, or indeed some of the Far Eastern systems, not just communist China, actually. Japan equally, where the presumption is you've got a 99% conviction rate, and the authorities wouldn't send people off for trial if they didn't know they were guilty. So there's no discount rate being applied there for people being found innocent, much less by a jury of their peers. Now, that list of regions of England that you read out is the northern half of where the population gravity is in England. There's an equal dense population area south of the West Midlands, London and the southeast in particular, but these aren't being mentioned, despite the prevalence of all kinds of criminality and all the favourite buzzwords like Islamism there. No, it's because the north of England had more people, such as the woman in her 50s in Cheshire who's been given a 1.5-year prison sentence, who simply reacted in disgust on social media and even asked just the question, how is this allowed to happen? And that was taken as a criminal or terrorist offence. So that's why the north of England is being targeted.
Right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But before we move on, let's just remind ourselves what the Tories were doing. Now, of course, we've mentioned many times now that Keir Starmer was standing for change, and so far he's changed nothing. He's simply accelerated, except the pace of the change that was already taking place. Now, this is the criminal justice bill that was put into place by, or at least put into the process by James Cleverly. It didn't get passed, obviously, because they ran out of time before the election. But I just wanted to remind everybody what this says, and we'll be coming back to this a little bit later, because it said that they were going to make sentences longer for the most dangerous criminals, including by making rapists serve every day of their sentence behind bars. On the other hand, they seem to be letting people out in order to make space for other people. But here was the key point: establish powers to transfer prisoners in and out of England and Wales to serve their sentences abroad. And I would not be surprised if we see this narrative coming straight back, because criminal justice is something that the Labour Party is intending to bring back through legislation in the not too distant future. We'll see what that does.